Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place of everything related to Amazon FBA, private label, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today I bring you another special guest. His name is Jacob Elbaum, and he's the founder of Shivook, where they specialize on everything that has to do with helping you optimize your conversion rates in the e-commerce space, which we know conversion rates are king in any platform, in any marketplace, in any website, because at the end of the day you can bring as much traffic as you want, you can put as much money as you want in your strategies, but if people is not converting, then the money doesn't come in, right, Jacob? So it's a pleasure to have you, Jacob, because I think you're gonna bring a lot of value on that specific subject, and it's definitely a pleasure to have you on board. So how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate being here. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I think for me it's very interesting to have you on because actually when we had our first meeting, I think around 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know that there was this specific niche. People actually specialize on everything that has to do with conversions, and I find it very interesting because people always talk about, yes, you need to focus on the best advertisement strategies and the traffic, email marketing, influencers, and everything. But then at the end of the day, and I have seen this a lot when I talk to founders, is that they do all this, but the foundation, which is their product, the offer, their landing page, where people actually needs to make the decision to proceed, they don't really focus on optimizing that side of the business. And that's, I think, what can really break or really make a huge difference for your business, because a couple of percentages on a six eight figure business is huge when it comes to conversions. So it will be interesting to talk about that today, but before we jump into that, because I like to do this with all my guests, I feel like usually people get a lot of value out of the background of our guests, is to understand a little bit about you and how you jump into the e-commerce space, and then from there what motivated you to found your company Shivook, and then from there we can jump to today's topic. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Yeah. For sure. So I've basically been in this, I'd say, field of digital marketing. I don't even quite know what I don't even quite know what the field is called anymore, but
Yeah,
it's like everyone marketing. But I've been in it for a little bit over a decade now. Have pretty much been in this space since getting out of college, actually.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And about 4 years ago, I took on a growth marketing role in a really large voiceover marketplace called Voice 123, one of the
Okay.
first in the market in that space.
Yeah.
And as a growth marketer, I actually did a lot of advertising at the time, and I was kind of actually more in that space. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized as a growth marketer, you have to look for the opportunities, and the opportunity that that business had was don't just drive more traffic, but really figure out how to get more people to actually do what we want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I went on a hunt and basically spoke to like 18 different mentors. I'll plug a really great website called growthmentor.com. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic place if you want to learn something quickly.
Nice.
And I spoke to some fantastic people there. They really helped guide me on the process of conversion rate optimization. And then
Mm-hmm.
I took those learnings and I started to practice them and put them in place in that company. I was there for another 6 months or so, and then after leaving, I joined Upwork, started as a freelancer, started just selling time for money, the
Yeah.
classic way of doing it, and kind of soon realized that's not too scalable, so I started to look into other bigger things. But I would say for the past three and maybe 3.25 years, it's been primarily e-commerce only, and yeah, I mean, never haven't turned back ever since.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think usually, we as entrepreneurs, and I went through similar phase than you. I also became first a freelancer, then from there, and seeing the potential of actually becoming more as an agency, a service provider in the space. That's when I actually also did the agency. But usually I feel like these roadmaps and obstacles you have to go through, that's really what builds your foundation. That's actually what help you really prepare as a professional, because during this period, that's where you make all the mistakes. That's where
Yeah.
you try this and it doesn't work, then you jump to here, and then you even become more aware of what are the latest things in that specific industry. And as you keep educating yourself, that's where really you start being separated apart from being that like 1% in that specific industry, which in this case is like focusing on conversions. And I think that's usually where you can then start providing value to so many businesses that I feel nowadays are in the commerce space are struggling, because I feel what I've been seeing the last couple of years happening a lot in the commerce space is that because of what happened with COVID and everything, like people were forced to jump into e-commerce, but a lot of people traditionally were coming from retailers or just physical shops,
Mm,
and they had no clue about e-commerce. And now, they are really in need of professionals like you, like to help them navigate this issue, which is conversion rate, which I feel, yeah, it's such a underestimated topic. I feel people think that, as I said at the very beginning, the key on a success of a business only around marketing and bringing all the traffic and promotion and so on. But at the same time, I feel people don't really focus on cleaning their own house first before going out, which is
of course,
the
yeah,
the offer and everything. And I wanted to talk to you about about that, which is
yeah, yeah.
what would you say, you as an expert on this field, is the first thing when a business comes to you, you look at to see what is wrong? Because I guess you first need to do an audit and you first need to understand what is going on. So what is usually your thought process about this, so people can understand how to dissect some of this? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, if you actually have a brand, or if you're selling something yourself, I would say that the first thing that I look at, is the first thing that someone should look at themselves for, is really what kind of business owner are they? I
Hmm.
know it sounds not related to conversion rate optimization, but it actually is 100% related to it. It's more related to it than in many ways. So that's really the first thing I'm trying to see, is essentially, I think the way that I kind of split it up is, was this business started, there's businesses that have, they've been around for 15 years, and they're making a certain amount per month, but then you find someone else that has started 6 months ago, and they're at that exact same place. Most times, not all times, but most times, that's because the reason that they started the business came from different places. This
Yeah.
person for 15 years is probably a lot more passionate and emotional towards the business, whereas the
Yeah.
person who started 6 months ago, it might be their third time doing it. They're just completely growth focused. It's all the entrepreneurship. It's making money. I respect both of those types of people, because they're both interesting use cases. But the way that I have to approach them as a conversion rate optimization person is very, very different, and that's because of the emotions that they have towards the brand. So that would be the first thing that I would say, and really the first thing I'm looking at is getting a better understanding of, what do they already know about website optimization? What do they already know about funnel
Hmm.
optimization? What do they know about advertising? How much traffic do they have? Can they even do, statistical A/B testing? And really, what it is they currently have, so that I can see, is there any value that I can bring to the table. So I think that's probably. But actually, just to touch on something you said,
Hmm.
there's definitely something that you kind of caught my interest in talking about COVID. And
Hmm.
I would definitely say that, you saw that huge increase in e-commerce over COVID period. And what actually happened during that period is that a lot of these brands had kind of, like, we'll call this quote unquote easy success during that time in
Yeah.
the e-commerce space, because everyone was basically an e-commerce potential customer.
That's
And
right.
once that ended, the
Hmm.
performance started to decrease, and as the performance started to decrease, suddenly it's harder to break even. And so, as it's harder to break even, then they come to people like me, and they say, suddenly my ads don't work. Help me
Yeah, I
convert
mean, I
more.
saw that a lot of people in COVID, to be honest, they saw success by luck of the market, not because they were
Exactly.
actually having a good offering, just because of the extra amount of people. Mathematically, you're getting sales, but it's not like you're really competing in the proper way, you see.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like, the expectation that a business owner should be aligned with the current circumstances of the market. So right now we're in a market where it's all about, from what I've seen at least, it's all about profitability. How can we
Hmm.
drive more without spending more? How can we avoid spending more on ads just without any real purpose? And so that's why people are really essentially coming to me, and I would say my job is to assess the situation, to maximize everything we can without really, looking too much in the ad on the ads, on the
Yeah,
budget of the ads. Um,
that's good.
but
That's good. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is super important. And this and it brings me to my first question, and I think this is something that I've been thinking actually forward to have this episode to ask you, which is, I know your specialty is mainly around, websites, right, and marketplace, but still I feel something can be, extrapolated and translated to also marketplaces. And I think I would like to ask you, to start the round table of, going back and forth on this topic, is based on your experience of working with all these brands and everything, what have you found that is the biggest factor for conversions? And just to give you some examples, what you say is everything around creatives right now. It's more around pricing. It's more about having the feature that nobody else has on that niche. What have you seen that is the thing that moved the needle the fastest? Because I think maybe some people listening to this or watching this will say, okay, I'm having conversion issues. What we say is usually the thing that people should look first into based on your experience. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So first comes first. It's not the hack, and it's not the
Yeah. It's just
there's no
basics. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100% just basics. Just like you said, a business, they start out, they don't really even quite know what their value propositions are, their offer and all that, right? So I would say you probably see this too in like Amazon and
Hmm.
whatnot. I mean, you probably see all the time that certain certain businesses just probably come to you. They're already having a certain degree of
Yeah.
success, and they don't even really know why. It just
Yeah.
like
It's
like
hard.
yeah, it happened, and so like that's a luck. That's a great luck, but you're missing. You kind of skipped out on all the foundational work to understand how to actually market yourself effectively. And so, in terms of where I see the most, the needle move most is, I would say, on the most basic foundations. And the way I would define that in actual practice is communication.
Mm,
So thinking on a deeper level, who am I talking to? So who are the different personas of my business
yeah.
and or my products, and what is the actual value proposition most important to them, and then really just experimenting and going through the process of saying, all right, now I'm gonna speak to this persona, now I'm gonna speak to this persona, and oh, maybe
Hmm.
this persona, if I speak to him but I talk about this value proposition, it's actually going to be more effective than the other value proposition. And really understanding and looking at it from that perspective, because at the end of the day, that's really why people are buying, a
Yeah.
personality and like a and like this is the actual reason. So to
Yeah.
answer your question, there's no one size fits all, but
Yeah. Of course.
there's a process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a mistake people do a lot is that um they don't really understand the avatar they're targeting. Sometimes I see brands that they don't really have a focus when it comes to niche. Like they focus on a niche, but they don't really understand the avatar. Like what is the age group? What is the gender? What is the financial background? What is the culture? Everything that very to the granular level. And I feel like the fact that so many brands are missing that level of segmentation, that's also the reason why they're having such bad conversions, because they just go so broad. And then if you go so
Exactly.
broad and your actual branding is not tailored to that granularity that you have to do at the client level, that's why you have that disconnect, and that's why you start seeing your social media not
Exactly.
working, your Google campaigns not working, influencers, and so on. So yeah.
Look at a company like Apple. They didn't start
Yeah.
out being applicable to everybody. No,
No.
they were focusing on such a narrow market of these like wacko nerds. I don't even know what to
Yeah, yeah.
call them, right?
Think
And
different.
exactly, and that's how they dominated that segment. Now, once they dominated it, then they could expand, but
To the
you can't
masses. Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's that saying of like someone's like don't look at someone's third 300th step or something. Just focus on like the next one. You have to
Mm.
get there. You don't get to take over the world without taking over your
Yeah.
street.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. It's super important because, yeah, nowadays most niches have monsters in terms of competitors, and if your goal is to always go against, the huge multitude ones, it's gonna be so difficult, right? And first building those micro communities, I would call them, like your that cultural level in small groups that they love your brand, they drive it, they talk about their brand to their friends, and then that's creating the reciprocal effect. that's where I really see when you can leverage, and improve your conversions in terms of the traffic that comes. Now, I would say, and this is another question I wanted to ask you. When it comes to conversions, I feel that yes, you need to understand a lot your avatar and your niche and all of that. But I feel a super important thing that people don't do a lot, and I feel it's because of lack of time and laziness, and, just lack of strategy, is A/B testing. Like, they don't really do a lot of testing. They don't test their main images, their main landing page, their fonts, their colors, their offers, their pricing, and I wanted to ask you how you actually recommend to tackle this, because at the end of the day, there are so many things you can A/B test. You can test your colors, your pricing, um, yeah, I don't know, the packaging, so many things,
Right, right, right.
Uh, so where usually you will start in terms of A/B testing, and what is usually some advice to that you will give when it comes to do this when you do A/B testing to make sure that it really pays out? Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. So I would definitely say that um, if you have data, it's going to help you. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you make
Yeah.
decisions. Obviously, where do I focus? So if we're talking, marketplaces, I know that data is a bit limited. There's
Mm-hmm.
some degree of data, but it's going to be more limited than if you have a
Yeah.
branded store. However, I would say, you're probably going to want to focus on the lowest part of the funnel if you identify that to be underperforming. If it's at benchmarks, obviously benchmark is a funny word because you have to actually try to figure out what the benchmark is in the industry. You have to talk to people. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
really understand like how are you performing.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're someone underperforming within that part of the funnel, let's say down the funnel in a cart or a checkout, and it is a branded site, then I would say that that's one area you could focus, and I would say focus as high up the page as possible, so high up above the fold.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, or first fold. I would say on marketplaces, definitely. I'm sure you probably experienced this well. Images and titles
Yeah.
and
The main thing and
description.
pricing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff you're gonna see right away because the other stuff is, they help. They'll get you a couple
Yeah.
extra percentages points, um, but yeah, and then something else in terms of the process, and I see what you're saying. It is
Mhm.
kind of like it is kind of like a daunting task of
Yeah.
how do I
Yeah.
like really stay on top of this? I think
That's why we got people like you to do it.
yeah, yeah, sure, but I mean, some people, depending on who you are, you could figure out how to do it alone as
Yeah.
well, and I think what makes it easier is to basically plan it all before you do any of it. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty much put together a roadmap of things that you're going to be doing and then go through the roadmap one by one instead of what most people do, which is, you just kind of go and you're just reactive and you just look at something and you say, oh, I feel today like doing this, I'm going to do it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier and then by the way, when you go through that process, you also make probably bad decisions because you launch it today randomly without any kind of plan and schedule, and then tomorrow you're like, oh wait, I actually wanted to run a sale tomorrow, so I have to turn this
Yeah.
off. It's not structured. So
Yeah.
if you go into it, from the beginning with a plan and structure, aware of kind of how this all fits into everything else that you're doing, it's just gonna help. It's gonna help it make it easier and
Mm-hmm.
feel a lot lighter.
For sure. For sure. And now, when it comes to some recommendations that you could give in terms of tools, because I'm pretty sure that all this you need to somehow combine it with something that again can allow you to manipulate the data, because I mean, if you do all this testing but again, as you say, you're not tracking the data, it's like you're playing the roulette. You're seeing what works and you don't really know what is
Right.
happening. I know Google Analytics is a big thing when it comes to conversions, but I want to also hear your take if that's one of the main things you recommend people to master in terms of improving their conversion. Are there other tools you would recommend, and what is your
Yeah,
take on that?
sure. So I have two takes on it. My
Yeah.
my my high level business entrepreneur opinion is you don't really need to master any tool if you have
Okay.
just like the most basic analytics of sales. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all know as entrepreneurs, we have this gut feeling for when something is really working very, very well and is noticeably different. Now, I focus on statistics, so feelings usually don't really go well with statistics. It's usually the data,
Yeah.
but I'm also aware that, we don't all have this skill set, and so we
Mm-hmm.
still want to be able to do these things even without the skill set. So use your gut, and look at your sales and see how things are having an impact. If we get into more granular things, the way that you're supposed to be doing it,
Yeah.
then yes, definitely Google Analytics is like the, as I say, a go-to tool combined with whatever tool you're using to actually run an A/B test. So
Mm-hmm.
today, there's a lot of tests, a lot of tools out there. Google Optimize is a very popular tool, but they're about to sunset in September. So there's lots of different tools,
Nice.
convert.com and dynamic yield, and obviously different stages of business, some
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars per
Yeah, it
year, and
depends.
others. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I ask you because I know when it comes to conversion, I sometimes have the conversation, and there is, I mean, you can go so in depth with data. I mean, there's people that even track like even how much time people spend scrolling, which buttons they click, and where you even can do heat maps. I know people do even do heat maps, so I know that is like the next level. And but it's good to know that at the same time, people when they get inside, they don't need to understand all these things inside out,
Right,
because
right.
I know it can get overwhelming, and then they say, you know what, yeah, I cannot focus on on conversions. I cannot do it. So I wanted to hear your take, and if there are some tools which you mentioned, just for the sake of adding that value as well. Um,
Sure.
awesome. Now, when it comes to um conversions as well, another thing that I think it would be interesting to also understand is when somebody works on conversion, will you say you also need to adapt this to your niche? And the reason why I ask you this is because the standard conversion metrics of a sport brands might be different than the ones of a supplement brand. They're different
Hmm.
longevity in terms of business plans. Supplements, you focus more on the lifetime value of a client. Sports is more one-time thing, for example. So are those things that you would say plays a big role when it comes to defining your metrics? And if so, how like somebody could get a feeling about those when designing a conversion optimization? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. 100%. I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, I mean, because let's say you're selling a piece of jewelry, your conversion rate is probably going to be
Hmm.
between like 0.2 to 0.8%,
Yeah.
something like that.
Especially it's expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Some jewelry is inexpensive, and so yeah, and then so reading a blog post about conversion rate for jewelry stores is not the most effective thing for you to be doing. It's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Whereas in the supplements, you could see 4, 5, 6%. You could see some nice numbers there. So definitely looking at it in different ways. For Shopify particularly, I actually happened to just notice that when you're looking at your data, I don't know if they have this available for all stores yet, but they just added like a benchmark option.
Mm,
So you could actually see
okay.
how other stores are performing. I don't know what their data is based off of. Obviously they have the data, but I don't know how do they, kind of like group it all together so that
Yeah.
it's like a real benchmark. But that is cool for Shopify stores. But yeah, I mean, understanding, yeah, to answer your question, there's no exact way to know the
Yeah.
benchmark. There's really just
Yeah.
not. It's just talking to people who are like myself, but specifically
Hmm.
know your niche really well, and maybe talking to three or four of them so that you can kind of understand. All right, this guy said this, and this guy said this. I'm going to take the average of all of those and say, okay, this is kind of where I should be aiming towards. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Love it. Good. Very good. Nice. But yes, I mean, I think we discussed very interesting things, and I think it's been definitely a pleasure to have you. But I think before we, start wrapping up today's episode, I want to also give you a chance to tell us where people can find us, because I know this conversion focus in terms of how to optimize and everything, such an extensive topic, and I'm pretty sure we can have many more episodes, which we will in the future. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure people might be listening and saying, you know what, I actually just want to reach out to this guy and see how he can help me with, delegate the focus about how to optimize my e-commerce thing. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the company and how people can find you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. So anyone who is interested in reaching out, I would say either hit me up on LinkedIn because I'm not the most social media type of guy, but LinkedIn, I show up there here and there.
You're
So
not a conversion guru.
not yet, at least, not yet.
Yeah,
There was an option on the table, but I turned it down.
yeah. Good,
Or
good.
yeah, or my website is also shivook.com, shivook.com. And
Nice.
yeah, reach out through there. Actually, just redoing the website, so probably some changes
Good.
to come in the coming 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I put all the information here down in the description so people can find all your information. And it's been a pleasure, Jacob. Thank you for being here. And looking forward to having you in the next one so we can keep talking about everything conversions related. Yeah. So it's been a pleasure, man. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, man.